Hello everyone, and welcome back to our series about childhood anxieties. Mariana here from Change Naturopathy. Today in video 3 we'll be talking about emotional stressors that causing your child's anxiety. So how some stressful life events could be trigger for your child's anxiety, and what other emotional stressors can trigger anxiety in your child, and how that stress response that you might heard of, that flight and fight response, biochemical reactions following that in their body and your body, triggering and increasing anxiety. So stressful events and chronic stress are one of the main causes of anxiety. Left untreated, stress can affect kids' health for lifetime. Here, how to help them to cope with all of that, we might go through all of those tips today. So I'll give you, for start, example of one of my clients who was suffering throughout her life with anxiety, and that started actually when she was in her childhood. As a child, she immigrated to New Zealand without her parents, and started living with her relatives, started going to school in New Zealand, but was all really new for her and quite stressful. And she was always, she remembers that she was always worried about her parents back home, and how they coping and surviving, because there was a war back in her country. So whenever she was anywhere on a school trip away from her relatives' home, she would worry if something bad gonna happen to her, and if they're on the school trip, will turn around and they have a crash at the end, or somebody going to attack them. So she was always constantly worried about something, about her own safety, about safety of her parents. So constantly consumed with some kind of stress. At one point, she had a performance at school for Christmas, and she was involved in that performance, and she, because of the high stress and anxiety, she ended up fainting. She fainted and was very quickly transported to the doctor. Doctors examining her and obviously asking questions, and at that time they were actually prescribed some anti-anxiety medication for her. She was saying at that point, and I remember that very well, and that's what I really never gonna forget, and this is what I learned from her, is that everybody, every doctor, every nurse, everybody, health practitioner who she saw that day, was keep asking what was wrong, was trying to find out what's wrong with her, was asking what's wrong with her, but none of them asked what happened to her. So she was, as a child, she was trying to find out and make up the stories, what was wrong with her, why she fainted, why is she feeling like that, why is she worried. But because at that point nobody asked the right question to her, and they might got her back right answer from her if they ask what happened to her. Her anxieties kept following her, and she went on the college, studied for the medical doctor, and not with that strength and like when she was just moved to New Zealand when she fainted, but it was always there in behind, and she learned how to manage that. When she got married and got her own daughter, then she felt that anxiety is coming back, because now there's another human being that she was responsible for, and she was meant to look after. So she was kept waking up during the night, checking up on her daughter, following her step whenever she was doing, starting to walk or riding the first time bike, and worrying that something bad gonna happen to her. So she was constantly in the worry and stress if something wrong gonna happen to her own child. And she doesn't want to really to admit that actually that stressful behavior also made her own daughter to respond anxiously, like she was responding to her anxiety. So obviously she was a child that was living under uncertainties. She was seeing the world as a chaotic and sometimes really unsafe. And shortly after that, her anxiety began when she moved and immigrated and separated from her parents. But none of the doctors, as she's saying, and none of her family was asking right questions. So we together, when we start seeing her together, we're going through her, obviously, health history, family and social history, and everything what was happening in her life, and was trying to find out what would be underlying causes of her anxiety. And obviously we established that that separation, that trigger was separation from her parents and going away from that comfortable known environment of her family into totally unknown and totally different country with different cultures and everything different, with different new friends, new family home. So it was lots of changes for that small child. So she responded really with stress and anxiety and worry. So definitely she taught me, and I was really pleased with that, to change how I approach and formulate my questions, especially to my clients who are suffering with mental health issues. So finding out, if they want to find out some answers, I have to change and formulate that properly. So not only asking about what was wrong with them, but asking what might happen with them. Is there any emotional triggers in the past that happened to them that might cause a current health issue that they came to see me for. And that's what I was also learning during my education as a naturopath, and that was part of that. But this case with this client is definitely opened my eyes and reminded me that that's very important point to check up in for anybody who's suffering from any type of chronic disease or have any health issues. So I'm telling you this example, obviously, that you can learn from that too. And when you are trying to communicate with your anxious child, or with, doesn't matter if it's anxious or any difficult child or any child who have some behavioral issues, you can modulate and formulate properly your questions so that you actually get a response from them. So this one example is just showing us how history or exposure to childhood traumas can cause anxiety could cause any other mental health issues in children and later in their adult life. So mental and emotional stressors that are one of the causes of anxiety could include physical and emotional trauma, such as abuse, brain injury, life-threatening experiences. Another category is adverse childhood experiences, and the last category is other life events like death, divorce of parents, serious diseases, accidents. So they are grouped in those little groups. And the second one is adverse childhood experience. Childhood traumas, as we said, can include sexual, physical abuse, emotional, physical neglect, family dysfunction, and they are named as adverse childhood experiences by Center of Diseases Control and Prevention, and they publish many studies about this cause of anxiety and mental health issues. So one of those studies in 1998 showed that there is a definitely clear connection between high adverse childhood experiences and poor adult health outcomes. So somebody who was exposed to really adverse traumatic events as a child, they will they have a higher possibility of suffering of different types of chronic issues, including mental health issues. So that's also when you're comparing with somebody who hasn't not been exposed to any of those traumas, definitely to somebody who has been exposed to many of triggers and traumas, emotional traumas, they are more predisposed for developing like chronic health issues like lung diseases, liver or chronic diseases or mental health issues. So many other studies have demonstrated that different types of traumas or toxic stress can rewire child's brain, and children who have experience with toxic stress live a majority of their lives in the body with activated flight and fight response. And I'm sure you heard about that term, flight and fight response, when we go in deeper a little bit later. Because of this, their brain are overloaded really with stress hormones, and they cannot focus on learning because they're all the time on the alert, and causing them to sometimes fall behind in the school. So as parents, it is important to search for really exposure to those traumatic events in your child's life, even if they are minor. Because all kids are different, as I say, and I keep repeating, all kids and all individuals are different and unique. So if what is really adverse traumatic event for one child, it might not be for another child. If we, for example, just think about this year, this 2020, and we can list so many psychological traumas and changes and stressors that not only us as adults could have really avoid as a stressful events, but many children were really affected and exposed with that. So I feel like that children suffering so much right now by all of these societal changes. So it is more important to understand really this if you're a parent too. So you can give your child more tools and more resources and more help, so they doesn't have to be really moments in their life when they can't really manage stress and anxiety. So just chronic stress can rewire a child's brain, and exposure to interventions that promote flexibility of the child's brain and exposure to those stressful events, like including trauma-focused therapies, proper nutrition, mindfulness, yoga. They all can help rewire child's brain back, and that's all called neuroplasticity, and it's a really separate science and research in that area. With the right tools, so definitely we can help our children thrive and manage their fears and worries and stress. And as I said, that's one of the main causes of anxiety, because they have direct stress and traumas have direct correlation to triggering and developing of anxiety in child's life or later in the adult life. That also can lead to different other disorders, like disorders of the immune system, disorders of the gastrointestinal system, and what we can say all about that stressful events and stressful events that our children might be exposed in their life. We always think that as adults, that our stress is coming from everything outside of us. There is a task, there is a situation, particular persons, and they are stressful to us. But truth is that our perception about those situations, our perception about that person that we think is stressing us, or our response to those people and those situations actually making us responding with a stress and making them stressful. So it's not them, it's how we perceive those situations and those people. So that part we all can change, and that's part we can help our children to change. so that they don't see and perceive some of those situations as stressful if they are not really are. So how we love and care for ourselves, how we love and care for others and our family, that's all definitely impact and disease, but also depression and anxiety and sleep issues and performance. So when a child breaks the ankle or has a physical injury, you are definitely rushing to the emergency department to fix that and getting treatment for that. Same should be going for the emotional injuries, emotional wounds. So if they are left untreated, if they are not detected on time and ask for the help from a health practitioner, or you trying to give help, provide help for your child, they can scar them for lifetime. So how that stress response and that biochemical reactions in our body triggering and increasing anxiety for our children and for ourselves. So it is really important to fully understand the way our bodies respond to the threat and danger, whether it's real threat or danger or it is just imaginary, our perception. When a person is in danger, we believe that they are in the danger. A number of changes occur and happening in our body and in our biochemical reactions, our physiology. The response has been named flight and fight response. And stress and anxiety can both trigger the flight and fight response in our body. So physically the two experiences are really quite similar. The fight or flight response is the automatic physiological reaction that happens when we believe that are under the threat. It can under the threat. It can be bring on sensational reaction, including muscle tightness, tension, pains, increasing heart rate, shortness of breath, fatigue, nausea, butterflies, feeling butterflies in our tummy, difficult concentrating and focusing and thinking, and you also can experience irritability and anger. Same goes for children too. So there are few things that is happening to the body when anxiety starts and occurs. So the two main situations that cause anxiety are anticipating the stressful situation or actually being in a stressful situation. The body reacts in very different ways to anxiety by provoking that flight and fight freeze response. For example, if you are walking on the street and saw the tiger, wild animal, you might stop and freeze, be quiet and wait until they pass, or you might realize that you have time to fight or flight or so just escape the tiger. The fight and flight or freeze response is the body's automatic way of coping with stressors to protect against danger or the threat. So it is really important to remember that the experience of anxiety in itself, it's not really harmful. It is very important that we have that stress response cleverly designed by our bodies. So even though there may not be a danger, when we are suffering from anxiety, remember what we talked about it last time, even if there is no danger, the body can trigger this system with anxiety, thinking just and perceiving that there might happen, that danger might approach us in the future. So we're anticipating, for example, we are walking in the dark somewhere in the forest and we're anticipating, oh my God, there could be some wild animals who can attack me any minute. And they are not actually there, but we are thinking about it, only thinking about it, we trigger that flight and fight response and that stress response. So when a person's flight and fight response is activated, there's three major systems affected, including the physical, cognitive, and behavioral systems. So physical system, how is the physical system affected? When we believe that we are in danger, our whole physical system undergoes, our physical body undergoes some major changes designed, and those changes are temporarily designed to enhance ability to either run faster or standing by, be ready to fight. So you as a mothers can remember that whenever your child was in some danger or something that you thought you never can do or move, some maybe heavy object that fall into your child, you found the strength that you didn't even believe that your body can find anywhere, that you had that in yourself. But that's that stress response, that flight and fight response, that actually that mother's instinct gave you that extra strength that you can do that and help your child in a danger. So physically, as soon as danger is perceived, the brain sends the messages to our autonomic nervous system, and our autonomic nervous system have two sections, what is sympathetic branch and parasympathetic branch. And these two sections control the physical changes that happen in flight and fight response. The sympathetic part of our autonomic nervous system is the part that activates the different areas of our body to be ready to for action, to move, to fight, or to run. So when the sympathetic branch is activated, it includes all areas of our body, and a person experiences physical changes from the head to the toe. So to get things moving, and sympathetic nervous system releases two chemicals from the adrenal glands that are actually sitting on our kidneys, and these chemicals are actually called adrenal and non-adrenal, adrenaline and non-adrenaline, what are actually hormones, and are basically messengers that serve us to maintain the physical changes for sufficient amount of time while we escape that danger. So those physical changes that sympathetic mechanism produce when we are anxious, for example, increasing the breath rate, which can lead to feeling lightheaded for some kids, increasing the heart rate, so they have heart palpitations, sending more blood to muscles to prepare them to fight or to escape, so we can result in this sensation of that heart palpitations. Increasing muscle tensions, muscle get ready to freeze or to start running, we can escape. Decreasing digestive function, because at that point digestion is not really important. Our body doesn't need to worry about that because we're in danger. Increasing body's temperature, so because of that we can feel nauseous or have diarrhea later on. Increasing body temperature, we can lead to sweating and on our palms of underarms, forehead, and deleting our pupils in our eyes, so like more light, that we can improve vision. So it is important to remember that how your child responds to potential actual stressors will depend on the individual interpretation of this situation. So for, as I said, uniqueness of the kids will show up in the way that for one child, butterfly would be magical, beautiful creature. For another child who maybe experienced early in life, was stung with a bee, and seeing a butterfly, another flying creature, that would be perceived as a danger. So it will respond with like a stress response and anxiety when seeing the butterfly. So it could be really difficult for kids to recognize when they feel anxious. To parents it might look that they're acting out behaviorally, what we talk about in the first video. So how do you know when anxiety catch your little one? If you haven't watched our first video on Monday, then you can go back and rewatch it, and those are all information provided in there. Behavioral systems, so that's second systems, what is triggering this flight and fight response is the two main behaviors associated with fear and anxiety, and they are fight and flight. So the overwhelming urge associated with this response are those of aggression or desire to escape or to fight, and so aggression, feeling of aggression is rising inside of you. Often this is not possible because of some social constraints, so people are often expressing the urges through behaviors such as moving the limbs, tapping, walking very fast in a small amount of space, snapping at people, feeling aggressive, but they don't understand why they're responding like that. In cognitive system, the main objective of the fight or flight response is to alert the person to that possible existence of danger. So one major cognitive change is that the individual begins to shift their attention to surroundings to search for the potential threat. So this accounts for the difficulty in concentrating. The people who are anxious experience low concentration and focus, what is quite normal because you are focusing on that perceived danger and how to overcome that. And sometimes obviously that threat can't be found. Most of us can't accept that not having an explanation for something and end up searching within themselves for an explanation. That often results in people thinking that there's something wrong with them, and especially kids who can't explain all those symptoms and all those feelings what are mixed and new for them. They always think there's something wrong with them, and that's why really responding anxiously to those stressors and those worries. Restoration of that systems, once the immediate danger has gone, the body begins the process of restoration and back to more relaxed state, and this is once again controlled by autonomic nervous system, and this time is it is instructed by other parts of parasympathetic branch to begin the process of counteracting that sympathetic branch, and as a result heart rate becomes to slow down, our breathing rate going to normal again, and body temperature begins to lower, and everything going slowly back to normal. So some arousals continues, and this is for very good reasons, because if in real situation that wild animal is still there, it would be really not good and foolish of us to relax and be off guard as soon as the animal begin to walk off. So that chance of danger continues to happen. So some effects of that fight response remains for some time, and only gradually is going into the balance, body going into the balance again. So this can leave the individual feeling really keyed up and in that stressful state for some time afterwards, and that's how we can explain why is it that people can feel anxious really for an ongoing period of time when obviously that's stressor, initial trigger and initial stressor is gone, and that's why how is chronic anxiety is starting to develop, because our body can't really if it's having so many triggers, stressful triggers, body constantly can't go back so many times to normality and balance itself, so stays in that arousal or that really stressed mode, and that's why we some of us really suffering from chronic stress and suffering from that chronic anxieties. So to wrap up, obviously today we talk about how those emotional events and triggers can cause anxiety in our children and adults too. I gave you some examples about that, and we explained how that stress response and flight and fight response actually working in our bodies, and how is that actually causing anxiety and keeping anxiety for some time as a chronic anxiety. So if you have any questions, again, just pop them down below the videos, and or you can directly message me and ask your questions, and I will respond as soon as I can. For tomorrow, we will go on to second cause of big cause of anxiety, what is environmental toxins that are affecting your family health, and where they're hiding, and how we are exposed to those environmental toxins, and how you can reduce that exposure and what you can do about that. So thank you very much for tuning in today and listening, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye bye.